it feels like Star Wars, but it's not the Star Wars that I've seen 100 times.
Yeah.
It's evolved it. And I think it speaks to how good the story is that even like 20 years on since it came out, yeah, I still would feel bad spoiling what the twist is. The developers said they wanted it to be like that equivalent moment from Empire Strikes Back of I am your father, but how do we do that for a player character who you've created? For me, it's like, it's the best ever gaming experience that I've had, and I had it a long time ago. I'm still happily kind of replaying it.
If Malak is not stopped, the Republic will fall.
The Force fights with me!
I went more with one that I have like a big personal connection with, which is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic from 2003. It is an RPG. I mean, some would say maybe it's influenced both of the other games that have been mentioned here today. And it's one of those, like, I just remember the story around how I got this game so well as well. There was one copy of this game amongst like the group of nerds at my school, basically. You know, 5 discs encased in a plastic box.
Yeah.
They got kind of passed around from person to person, as if like the Bible was being like spread amongst the group. We were gradually being.
You must experience this.
Yeah. And I remember there being so much chatter around it. It was this great game. It's got this great story. It's got this great twist as well. And I actually foolishly asked someone what the twist was before it was my turn to play it, so I knew what was coming. So the setup of this game is you kind of design your player character and they wake up on a spaceship in the middle of a kind of space battle. It's a few thousand years before the events of the Star Wars films. They wanted to say 1,000 generations before, but then Lucasfilm were like, we need a specific, you need to put a number on this.
Yeah, we need to mark it on the timeline or the Star Wars fans will be furious.
Yeah, you wake up on a spaceship, your character, I mean, classic video game trope, your character's got amnesia, kind of quickly introduced to kind of, at this point in the Star Wars timeline, you know, kind of prior to the prequel, so there's loads of Jedi running around, and actually because of more recent events, there's also loads of Sith running around, because these 2 Jedis, Revan and Malak, kind of went out into the kind of outer rim of the galaxy, and they kind of came back Sith Lords with the whole Sith Armada and a kind of space station, which is basically like the era version of the Death Star. And so these guys have come back. There's now kind of Jedi and Sith are at war, and that's the battle that this spaceship is in the middle of. From there, across various different planets, some of which are like familiar ones like Tatooine and Kashyyyk, you kind of have gradually pieced together the key to overcoming Darth Malak, basically. Each planet is kind of its own kind of self-contained story with its own characters and lots of kind of player agency, which you can kind of approach things in different ways. There's kind of a light side path and a dark side path that you can take. Basically, on each planet, you've got to find the star map, and eventually they will all lead you to the Star Forge, which is the big Death Star thing. And I just remember it being, at the time, and still probably to this day, the most immersed I've felt in a world that I kind of already loved, because I've always been a big Star Wars fan. Maybe that is obvious. But to be able to kind of go, and obviously like Star Wars is famous for its world building, that first film kind of set up the galaxy so well. But this game kind of takes that, all the familiar things you know, it's like, but it's a completely different era. There's lots of stuff to discover. There's loads of backstory. There's like relatively recently, there was like a Mandalorian war between Mandalorians and Jedis. And that's kind of, there's one companion character who you collect, and if you talk to him enough, he'll tell you all his war stories. And that's kind of, you basically get different characters who you recruit along the way. There's a couple of Jedis you recruit. There's one kind of Sith you recruit who turns back into a Jedi. All these characters have these kind of amazing stories. They each have their own missions that kind of move their stories along. I was actually playing it recently on Switch because, I mean, shout out to Aspire, who are the company who keep porting it onto new things, which is very, very helpful.
So you can play it again.
Yeah, exactly. I was playing it on Switch and I found a whole storyline that I hadn't found before, which was there was like this bounty hunter guy in the corner of one of the spaceports, and he'll kind of send you on like some Black Ops assassination missions, basically, which I'd never found before, so that was cool. I don't think there's a light side way of doing them, which kind of wrecked my playthrough because I really wanted to do them.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds up to, and I think it speaks to how good the story is that even like 20 years on since it came out, I still would feel bad spoiling what the twist is, like with all these cameras pointed at me, it would feel like breaking the law. But basically this big twist occurs that makes the story a lot more personal and ties your custom character who you kind of created at the start and you've been building up along the way, ties them in like a much bigger way into the larger narrative. The developers said they wanted it to be like that equivalent moment from Empire Strikes Back of I am your father.
No. It's not true.
But how do we do that for a player character who you've created to go, oh, this other character you met as your father maybe doesn't really mean anything, but the way they tie it in is so beautiful. And then it kind of builds up to a great finale. And again, there's probably not as many different ways you can play it as Skyrim or Breath of the Wild, but there's enough replayability in there that you would definitely go back in because you want to see what the other ending is. There's characters who you can lead kind of down different paths. You can turn characters into Jedis, or some characters can end up on the dark side. Some characters will be very unhappy with some of the choices that you make if you do make them. And it's just, for me, that kind of perfect blend of like being immersed in a kind of whole galaxy of possibilities, all these brilliant little stories. The music is great, the performances are great, still probably to this day some of my favorite kind of characters and performances behind them. And yeah, just for me, it's like it's the best ever gaming experience that I've had, and I had a long time ago. But I'm still happily kind of replaying it. And they were going to do like a nice glossy PS5 remake of it, but sadly that seems to be in trouble at the moment. But I would love to see that someday.
Well, movie tie-in games and spin-offs don't have the best reputation. What pitfalls would you say this game avoided?
I think it avoided being like an overt movie tie-in. I think if the same team with even the same resources and the same cast, if they had been told, because it was around the same time the prequels were going on.
Yeah, well, and it was an option, right, that they were going to do a game based on Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. That was going to be the other option, or to do this prequel. Yeah,
I think if they had done like an Attack of the Clones game or like a prequel era game, I think it avoided the pitfall of, well, we know what's going to happen, as much as like the Spider-Man 2 movie game is a good example of. Like they literally have the scenes from the movie in the game, Tobey Maguire's voice is in the game, but they still managed to add in kind of side plots and other things that weren't in the movie, so you've at least got a bit of variety and new stuff to discover. But I think it avoided that pitfall of, well, we're replaying events that we've already seen, and you know, especially at that time, it'd be like, it visually looks worse than a Hollywood film. It kind of avoids that pitfall completely. I think it manages to, actually one of the closest experiences is, remember that first time that you saw Force Awakens in the cinema? And it's like, it feels like Star Wars as I remember it. And not those kind of later viewings where you might have like nitpicked or kind of the moments. It's that kind of feeling of, it feels like Star Wars, but it's not the Star Wars that I've seen 100 times. It's evolved it, it's added all this different stuff, all these new things to discover.
Yeah, you felt the Force.
Yeah, I felt the Force. It was really strong with me.
Wherever you go, you will be recognized as the saviors of the galaxy, the heroes of our age. But you must remain ever vigilant, for one day you may be called upon yet again to defend the glory of the Republic against the tyranny of the dark side. For this is the destiny of the Jedi.